taking his time today. There we are. Welcome to the Own It Show. I am so grateful to be here with you. We have a special guest, as always, Scott Aaron, LinkedIn expert, podcaster, and best-selling author. And he was actually a guest speaker in our program last night and blew our minds away with all his knowledge and tips and tricks on LinkedIn. So you're in for a treat today. So hold on to your socks. We've got magical tips and tricks to help you get breakthroughs and wins right away, because we know business is a journey and we want to help you be successful. So thank you, Scott, for joining us today. Please share with the audience all about yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. And grateful to see you again and be back again in your community. So my name is Scott Aaron, originally from Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. I now reside in Marlton, New Jersey, just about a half hour outside the city. And I am a LinkedIn coach and consultant. I don't work for LinkedIn. I leveraged it myself. And my wife and I scaled our business to multiple seven figures over the last 4 years. And we've taken the construct of everything that we've been doing, marketing, branding, lead generation, visibility, expert in your space, ideas and methodologies, and we've put that into virtual programs, one-on-one consulting, and group coaching programs as well, helping people truly stand out in this saturated and crowded online space. So not only do they become more credible, but the light is truly being shined on them as the expert in the space that they are in.
Absolutely love that. And you really shared some great statistics yesterday too about the return on investment and doing lead generation on LinkedIn and the quality of people who are on there ready to buy. So I know that that is a new place that we maybe some of us haven't ventured there because it's been unfamiliar. And now I think it's time for all of us conscious entrepreneurs to connect on there, because we all have services where we can serve each other. And so let's get out there and work with those conscious entrepreneurs on there. So I'm so excited for that. So let's share a little bit about your entrepreneur journey. I know you've had quite a journey, and we love to share about the journeys to inspire people. So the whole point of the show is to make uncommon knowledge common. So LinkedIn knowledge and not common, it's your lucky day. And to truly inspire, educate, and serve, so we can help conscious entrepreneurs step into their greatness, because we know only 10% of the world is willing to be an entrepreneur, and only 1% of that 10% will lean in and actually make it happen. And so we want to have you lean in, own it, and make it happen. So listening to other people's journeys to know that you're not the only one going through turbulence can be a great motivator. So let's hear all about your journey. Where were you? What did you do to make the change? And where are you now?
Wow, it's a deep story. I wrote a book on it. It's called Good Guys Always Win. It was the first book that I, wrote myself and self-published back in 2016. And, there's a lot of interesting things. I had a great upbringing, great childhood, great family. I'm very, very blessed to have my sister as one of my best friends. We talk almost on the daily. And, I'm very close relationships with my parents, even though they're not married anymore. But I would say that, I learned a lot about who I am from the lessons that my parents taught me to, treat others with kindness, to, treat others the way that you want to be treated, and, really just be a good person. And, that was the household that I was raised in, and following the traditions and the beliefs of your background. And, a lot of that helped carry over into the real world. And, I share this story often. My dad was, my hero. I mean, I wanted to be my dad, to wanting to become and doing bodybuilding and, being a good athlete and being a business owner. So I always looked up to him. And, it was interesting. My father took an interesting path in his career when I was finishing up high school, going into college. And, to make a long story short, he made some bad business decisions, and he ended up in federal prison for 2.5 years. And this is when I was going into my sophomore year of college. I was attending the University of Pittsburgh, not so much for studying, but more for partying. So it was actually good that I ended up having to come home because I wouldn't have lasted much longer anyway. And I re-enrolled at Temple, still graduated in 5 years with a bachelor's in human resources because what I was doing at the time was I was running our family gym. My father turned the keys over to me as a 19-year-old kid. And he said, listen, you got to grow this gym. You got to keep this gym going to support yourself, your mother, your sister, and me while I'm away. And I took the bulls by the horn. I put the bull by the horns. And, for me, I always correlate to that experience as almost like a hand in poker. Sometimes you're dealt with a great hand and you make it work for you, but sometimes you're dealt with a pretty crappy hand and you have to make it work. And it's not about bluffing your way through it, but you have to trust yourself. And I did. And I was resilient. And I shared this before, but I think what really helped me was I had zero exposure to the real world, meaning I had no 9-to-5 mentality. I had no employee mindset. All I knew was how to be an entrepreneur. It was what I was raised on. And, through everything I learned in business and my career in the fitness industry spanned from 1998 until 2016, 18 years. And I saw a lot of changes in the industry. And there were a lot of ups and downs personally. Sold 2 gyms for $1 million. I became a millionaire in my early 20s, only to lose everything and actually get $1.5 million in liability debt just 7 years later. Losing a house, getting married and divorced twice, having to file for personal bankruptcy. So entrepreneurship is not a straight line, just like life. But I would say none of that ever deterred me from wanting to become better. Again, as your show states, I owned everything. I didn't blame anybody. I didn't point the finger. I had to take self-ownership saying, okay, I'm the one that signed these documents. It's my name on this piece of paper, whether family had me sign it or not. I signed it and there's nothing I can do about it. But I remember 3 years before I filed for personal bankruptcy, which was July 1st of 2016, which 30 days later I closed my last gym and never looked back. It was May of 2013 and I was introduced to the world of online marketing. And this is where the game was changed, because I was so used to the whole belly to belly and as a personal trainer and sports nutritionist, you're confined by the 4 walls of which you work. So that was it. That's all I knew was how to earn income from people that either signed up for the gym or hired me to train them. And that was it. It was time for money, time for money, time for money. And when I got into the online world, it was actually fairly early on. And I remember clear as day. It was about, I would say, 3 months in. It was the summer of 2013. And I was on the beach and I got an email from the portal of my online company and my wellness company. And there was a direct deposit of $650 that was en route to my bank. And pardon my French, but I was like, holy shit. Because for me, and I don't know how many independent contractors are watching and listening to this, but any massage therapist, any nutritionist, any personal trainer, any coach that you're trading time for dollars, to be sitting on the beach with my family, not working at the gym, and earning almost $700 that week. Now, comparatively speaking, I made much more training people, but that was around 10 hours of my life that didn't need to be spent in the gym because of the online business that was growing. And I remember calling a friend of mine And I was like choked up, and he goes, "What's wrong?" I'm like, "Nothing is wrong." I said, this wellness thing, this online wellness thing is working. I just made almost $700. And he goes, "Well, that's what happens. You have a business that's online. You can work with people from anywhere now." And it was this light bulb that I'm like, I don't have to trade time for dollars anymore if I don't want to. And I started to dig deeper and deeper and deeper into the world of social media. And about a year later, I stumbled upon LinkedIn. And this kind of spurred from two conversations. One was with one of my first mentors. And she asked me an interesting question. She said, "Scott, you have to wake up every single day and you have to ask yourself, how am I going to connect with myself today?" And I thought about that question. I'm like, well, that makes kind of sense. If I really want to connect with the right people, I have to connect with, entrepreneurial minded people, business minded people, people that I would be able to create a great organic conversation and connection with without even having to try. It was just there. And the other came from a personal development event I was at. And this gentleman who was hosting the event kept having all these people come on stage. And it was all about the law of conversation and all the successful businesses that they had. And person by person, he had them grab this dry erase marker, go to this whiteboard, and write down the amount of conversation they have had to get to where they are. And the smallest amount of conversations I saw on that board was 7,000 conversations. And the first thought in my mind was, oh shit, I'm in trouble. Because I was using Facebook primarily, which you're only allowed 5,000 friends, right? And as you and I talked about yesterday, people don't have the emotional capacity for 5,000 friendships. It's not the way that we're wired. We have a couple close relationships, and then it goes out from there. So I'm sitting there in the audience, and I'm like, I got to do something different here. If I really want to build the right kind of business, I need the quality people and the quantity of people in my favor. And that's where kind of LinkedIn was that spark for me, because I started to look at all the demographics where, you're allowed 30,000 connections. The average income is $100,000 a year or more comparatively to Facebook and Instagram, which is $30,000 a year or less. And the average age was 30 to 55 instead of 18 to 29 on Facebook and Instagram. So I knew my target market. I knew the monetary income that they needed to make, but I also knew the age demographic of the people that I wanted to connect with and where they were hanging out. And I just had to get on there and start playing in the right sandbox. And when I got onto LinkedIn, to me, it was a very self-intuitive experience. A lot of people are still confused by it. It's overwhelming to them. But for some reason, it came very natural to me. You send some connections out, then you send some messages, people respond, you hop on a phone call or a Zoom. That just came very natural to me. And then, providing some value-added commentary. So this is like midway through 2014, and I started to get significant traction. My business grew and scaled tremendously in that time period. And I reached out to a buddy of mine and I said, "Listen, Joey, you got to get on LinkedIn. It's a gold mine over there. I mean, you're missing out. You have a similar background to me. You could kill it." So I told him a little bit of what I was doing and what I knew. And I said, "Do these things and then get back to me in a couple weeks," which he did. And he texted me, and all the text message said was, "Dude, call me." So I called him and I said, "What's up?" And he goes, "Listen, whatever you're doing, it really works." He goes, "I have 14 appointments booked this week." And he goes, "I haven't had that many calls in a week ever. So whatever you're doing, create a course, teach this, talk about it. You can help so many people." At the very same time, one of my first business coaches, Jeffrey Combs, he invited me onto his podcast. And this was back in the day, 8 years ago, when podcasts were being done through 1-800-conferencecalling.com, where you would call in and you would dial in some PIN number. It was very, archaic at this point. And so he had me on there and we started talking about all the nuances and all the differences between LinkedIn. And this is the first that so many people, like no one had really heard about LinkedIn at this point. They knew it as a place to get a job or something of that nature. And so I was spitting all this knowledge of what I knew at the time, and I got off that call. I went onto Facebook. There was a bunch of notifications, and I had 9 inboxes of people wanting to pay me to teach them how to use LinkedIn. I'm like, I think I have a business here. And so I defined very, very quickly a gap in the marketplace. And that gap was people didn't know how to A, use LinkedIn, B, they were struggling with lead generation, and C, they wanted to create more sales in their business, which I was doing all 3 of those with LinkedIn. So then I started coaching people, and the rest they say is history.
That's incredible. It's one, the resilience and the persistence to be the entrepreneur that you are today. It is no matter what kind of attitude. I love it. It's an absolute ownership. And that's the only way we can be successful, is passing that persistence test.
Yes.
And I love how you brought in the owning it, taking full responsibility. That's why the company is called Own It Empire. It's because we work with the law of cause and effect. And we understand that everything in our life is the effect of our thoughts, feelings, and actions previously. No make wrong, it just is. And if we want to have something different, we have to own it. And we have to be at cause. And so you just absolutely turned that tables around and owned it regardless of what came your way. And that is true success.
Yeah.
And now you're helping so many others.
Yeah. I mean, just to piggyback on what you just said, I turned my excuses into reasons. So again, our headspace, the 6 inches between our ears, either hurts us or helps us. So do you want to live by the same story that you're rewinding the same tape and playing over and over again that is not giving you the desired result? Or are you willing to turn the page and start writing a new chapter? And, it's people think that they have to do these massive things to shift the complexity of their entire life. It's small little nuances that you change, day in, day out that amount to the biggest things. The smallest change in your life creates the largest ripple and wave you could ever imagine, because it leads to something else, which leads to something else, which leads to something else.
Absolutely. I love the book, The Slight Edge. It's one of my favorites. Mm-hmm. And I read it in 30 days, just like you said, 10 pages a day. And he says, it's the little mundane things that we do day in and day out that add up to success. It's the compound effect. And it's the iceberg analogy, right? We see, oh, look at, Scott's so successful. You're just looking at the top of the iceberg, but listen to the history. Since he was 19, he's been owning it, right? And so absolutely just taking full responsibility and knowing that there's no failure, just feedback. I'm really leaning into that. I want to remind everyone there's no failure, just feedback. And we only fail when we quit. So we just pivot and we find a new way that works so that we can continue to do what we love and be the authors of our own story. Otherwise, we're living in those reasons. And I love Napoleon Hill calls them alibis. It's like, I'd love to, but let me put, and I call it the Santa sack of shit.
Yep.
It's pulling out from the alibi bag. You're like, I'd love to, but don't worry, I don't have time. I don't have money. I don't know enough people. I don't know how to use LinkedIn.
It's like what Tony Robbins says. He's like, I should do this, I should do that. Stop shooting all over yourself and actually take action on it.
I love it. Stop shitting all over yourselves. We encourage to remove the word should, but, and try from your vocabulary in our community.
And just do.
Just do. Just get an inspired action. Absolutely. So what a journey, what an inspiration. And what are some tips that you would like to share so people could start to be successful?
So if I was to kind of break down 3 specific things that people can do, whether it's going to be applicable to LinkedIn or not, the first thing I would do is hire a coach, join a program. I know it sounds kind of like elementary, but here's the thing. What I know to be true right now is there are so many resources out there. There's free this and free that and download this and workbook that and YouTube and Google yourself until you fall asleep. You could overwhelm yourself with all that information. I can absolutely attribute the success that I'm having today and each and every year due to the fact that within 90 days of starting my online entrepreneurial journey, I hired my first coach. And it wasn't because I was looking for a shortcut. I was looking for two things. A, I was looking for a way to shorten the learning curve. How can I get from A to B in a more streamlined and consistent fashion where I didn't have to fail over and over again trying to figure it out, pick up the pieces, put it back up together. Now, I was going to fail regardless. There's going to be those failures, but I wanted a more streamlined approach. B, success leaves clues. So why wouldn't I want to work with someone that was already successful in the way that I wanted to be? So whether you're, and I know what people are saying, well, what if I don't have the money? Well, listen, if there's a will, there's a way. And I remember I didn't have the money. It went on my credit card. I actually had to call my credit card company, and I'm not telling people to go into debt. That's not what this conversation's about. But I knew intuitively that the money that I was about to spend, the ROI would 1,000 times whatever I was spending because what I was about to learn. And that's the thing. I deciphered very early on what the pitfalls were in what I wanted to do, the areas of help that I needed. So really sit and think, all right, here's what I'm really struggling with right now. Here's what's really holding me back in my business. Whether it's your mindset, whether it's your money mindset, whether it's the structure of your business, any of those things. And then go find someone that is credible and is the expert in that space and make the investment, whether it's one-on-one, whether it's group coaching, or even one of their online programs. If you're learning exactly what you need to fill the gap, hole, and void in your business and in your life, you'll get there much quicker and in a more streamlined way. So that's number one. Number two, focus on yourself. I think there's so many people that don't take enough care of themselves. They wear this burnt out hustle badge of honor like it's, well, look at this.
It's no longer sexy to be so busy.
You see that? I work 24/7. So full transparency, I have never worked less and made more money than I am right now. 100%. I work 3 days a week. I work Mondays, Tuesdays, and Thursdays. I have Wednesday and Friday as my flex days to do things like this because there's nothing on my schedule, and I have off every single weekend. So 3 out of the 7 days of the week, I'm doing something for my business. 4. So more than 50%, 60% of my week is spent not working. And because I've created that work-life harmony, that balance, that integration, it's allowing me to focus more on me because the better that I am, the better I can serve everybody else around me. So just because there's people out there with this hustle mentality that, work your 9 to 5 and then work your 6 to 9 a.m. or whatever it is. Listen, that's not leading yourself to burnout, giving yourself an autoimmune disease or going into adrenal fatigue. Is it really worth it? And what are you actually chasing? Are you chasing the mighty dollar? Are you chasing the fact that you want to be some sort of influencer, which the way that you influence people is you impact them first, not the other way around. So really start putting you first. Create boundaries in your life. Create a schedule for yourself. Nancy and I don't do any work before 10 a.m. every single day. The first 4 hours of our day from 6 a.m. to 10 a.m., that's us. That's couple time. Same thing. We stop work between 5 and 6 at night. We go to bed around 10:30. So the first 4 hours and the last 4 hours of our day is just us. So really focus on taking care of you, because if you're not at your best, your business is not going to be at your best either. And the third and final thing is find your community. What I believe in wholeheartedly now, even everything that we've experienced with the growth of our business, we can absolutely attribute back to not only making the right investments into our business, but who we surrounded ourselves with. You hear the circle of influence all the time. You're the sum of the 5 people that you spend the most time with. Nancy and I are very particular, not about our friends. We're very particular about who we're influenced by. We want to get into the right circle of people where we can network. And again, Heather and I are a prime example. We were in a a like-minded, business coaching program where, we extracted this friendship out of it, and here we are today, and then providing value to each other's networks. That's what moving your business forward looks like, because everyone thinks that they have to go this entrepreneurial road alone. Nancy and I follow the teachings of the book, The Science of Getting Rich by Wallace D. Wattles.
Love that book.
First money mindset book ever written. It's the only one, and I say this with full confidence, you will ever have to read. Every book you have ever read, Think and Grow Rich, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, You're a Badass at Making Money, every single one of those is based on the teachings of that first book. And there's a lot of golden nuggets in this book, but the one thing that I always come back to is, instead of living in a world of competition and comparison, live in a world of creation and collaboration. One of the main reasons why our business has continued to grow and scale is because we collaborate non-stop. What are we doing right now? This is called a collaboration. So I think the combination of those three things, investing in yourself and getting a coach or getting into a program, taking care of yourself to make sure you're at your best, and really finding your tribe, finding those people that are just a few steps ahead of you, that you can start networking with and start penetrating into their networks and vice versa, so you can help one another. Those three things compounded over time will absolutely give you the success that you're looking for in life and in your business.
Absolutely love that. And I have to add, because I love Jim Rohn, and in one of his books, he said, if you could have a book by someone of all the ways they fucked it up, wouldn't that be priceless? Nobody writes that book.
No.
So that's why you hire a coach and a mentor, because they did find all the ways that it didn't work, and they've now found the way that it does. And instead of spending 10 years of finding out the ways that it doesn't work, you can actually hire a mentor and probably do in 90 days what might have taken you a lifetime.
Yep. Or never done at all.
Exactly. And that's how we create the quantum leap. So I'm all about mentorship. And I absolutely love The Science of Getting Rich. I studied it as a workshop with Bob Proctor as well. I truly believe that there is a science to getting rich. It works with the metaphysical. Money is an energy. It's a frequency. And in order for us to attract it, we need to be on an abundant frequency. And most of the conditioning and most of society does not have us in that. It has us in lack and feeling like we are not enough.
Fear.
Yeah. Faith over fear. Mm-hmm. Everything is fear-based, right? So we need to rewrite that narrative. And that's why we have this company, is to help conscious entrepreneurs birth the new earth, to make the old systems obsolete and actually put people over profits, because currently it's run by corporations that put profits over people. And we are going to make a big change in this world with that. And the second part about this company is exactly what you said. It's working on you. So we do self and business mastery. And as I've also been an entrepreneur, I started out similar as yourself. So I've been an entrepreneur since, I stepped out of university and trained personal trainer, kinesiologist, nutritional practitioner, and I had a trade your time for money model for a decade. And I kept changing the model and hoping it would work a different way. And it didn't. And I kept hitting burnout over and over again, time after time. And I finally realized, the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result. So if you want to keep building a new trade your time for money model, then you're going to have no more time to trade, and you've stopped your impact that you can have, the amount of people you can serve, and your income. And that also impacts the amount of people you serve, because the more money you have, the more people you can help, right? We want to give all the children their best chance. And right now, hundreds of thousands of people die from drinking dirty drinking water. It's 2022. That needs to stop. Yeah. So there needs to be a big shift in this world. And that comes with the collaboration and the conscious entrepreneurs like us getting together, having think tanks, sharing ideas, inspiring, educating, and serving other people, so that we can actually create a world that has us all winning.
Absolutely. I mean, again, I think you hit the nail right on the head, that it's one of those things where we have to get out of the dark ages and live in a mindset that's solution oriented, not problem fixated. And again, there's a solution for everything, and that's the thing I love about life, is that when there's a problem that arises, someone figures out a way to provide a solution for that. So when you're living in a mindset that is solution oriented instead of focusing on the problem. Live in the solution, not the problem. When you're in that solution oriented mindset, you're going to be able to figure out the keys to everything that you want to figure out. And whether that's, again, digging deeper within yourself or mentoring with someone or seeing something online, there's an answer to every single one of our problems and our questions. You just have to dig deep enough to go find it.
I love that. And it's, instead of seeing the problem as a problem, we now, as entrepreneurs, I love Kelly Roach says, our job is to solve problems as business owners. And so instead of saying, oh no, I have this problem, you just start asking, how can I solve this problem?
Yes.
And Napoleon Hill used to spend 45 minutes a day writing ideas of how he could solve the problems that he had, ideas that he could generate for his $1 million businesses. And so I really believe if we start asking ourselves how, then we open up the floodgates for the right people, places, and opportunities and circumstances to solve those problems. But we close the door as soon as we're like, oh no, it's a problem, I can't. So it's living in that ownership energy and actually having the mentality of the entrepreneur who's burned the boats, closed the back door, who is only going forward. Doesn't matter what comes your way. I know where I'm going. That's the direction. And it requires the mindset. Like you said, you basically winning or losing in that 6 inches between your 2 ears. So it really requires that mindset. And 90% of the world is not willing to do what it takes to be a conscious entrepreneur. So we actually have to lean into community.
Yes.
Because the rest of the world is going to tell you all the ways it's not going to work. And so we want to hang out with the people playing to win, right?
Yeah, I mean, my wife and I believe in creating our own economy. I don't care who's president. I don't care who's prime minister. I don't care what's going on with gas prices. We're going to create our own economy where none of that is ever going to affect us. I don't care what people say. That's just, we focus on our little world because, we're living it. We're creating it. We don't let those outside sources affect us because we don't have time for negativity. We have time for movement forward, and we have time for positivity, enlightenment, prosperity, and abundance. That's what we have time for.
And that's the energy and the attitude that you go from bankruptcy to multimillionaire, transforming people's businesses globally. That's the attitude that you need. I absolutely love it. So what's the final advice that you have for the listeners, and where can they learn more about you?
Yeah, I would say, you said it earlier, your failures open the doors to your successes. And I'm a big believer in the quicker that you learn how to fail, the quicker you're going to learn how to succeed. And again, I know it sounds very airy-fairy, but it's true. I can also attribute a lot of the success that we continue to have is because we're constantly trying to figure things out. We are looking at what works, what doesn't work. It's that don't try, just do mentality. So, again, if something doesn't work, try this. If that didn't work, let's do that. If this doesn't work, let's move over this way. So we're constantly in that forward-thinking motion, whether it's a millimeter or a mile, and we invite failure. We invite it in because behind the door of failure lies the success that you want to have. You just have to keep opening those doors. And if anybody would like to connect with me, it's www.scottaaron.net. Honestly, if you just Google me, you'll find me, Scott Aaron, LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, and would love to connect with you.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for your time, for your energy, for your inspiration. You really are showing people that anything is possible. And that's the attitude and the belief that we need, and the resiliency that we need to truly own this entrepreneur journey. So thank you for being an inspiration to our listeners.
Well, Heather, my pleasure. And if you've seen it being done, or you're watching it being done, that means you can do it too.
Amen to that. And so it is. So everybody, you can do it. Remember, it's time to own it. Expect magic and miracles. Stay happy, healthy, wealthy, and we'll see you next time.